Name is Arnold Altaffer, and I came from Moorcroft, Wyoming, born and raised, graduated there, and was drafted there in the middle of '67, and was in Vietnam almost exactly the year of 1968. Went over there about the second or third and got back on New Year's Eve. So I was right there in '68. And then I had a career in with Farm Credit Services and retired here about 2.5 years ago and moved back up to Moorcroft. We got a little place up there, so
Nice. I really like it up there.
yeah, it's kind of pretty. Kind of
So-
wet right now.
Yeah. What unit were you with, sir?
I was in the 1st Infantry Division, Alpha Company, 2nd to 16th, and it was totally infantry. I mean, I didn't have any other thing but walking power up there. And I was just telling the guy I was talking to, I probably spent 11 months in the bush. I didn't, we had a little time in Zion, our base camp, and a little time on R&R, but probably spent 11 months actually in the bush in an NDP, some of it. But I mean, we didn't have beds or had leeches to lay on sometimes. But
So what would you say would be one of the most memorable events that sticks in your mind?
well, probably one of the most eventful, I suppose, and memorable is actually the Tet Offensive. The company had gotten probably a little complacent, hadn't seen a lot of action, and people were a little careless, in my opinion, weren't paying a lot of attention as they should have. And the morning of the Tet Offensive, I was on outpost and happened to make contact with some people that I didn't like, and it really opened my eyes up and the rest of the world's that we're in a real war. I mean, there was just people dead, and I was part of that, helping do that. And it really woke everybody up. And my instinct is, or my old country boy, I don't know if it's instinct or not, it's probably what saved me through that first hours of Tet is we were on outpost writing letters, me and another kid, but I always kept my M16 right here. It wasn't over there parked on a tree or laying over there. I always kept it right here. And that probably was the only reason I'm here today. And then people kind of learned to do that later on, that, hey, this is a bad deal. And but I didn't develop any bad habits, I don't think, and had a pretty quick learning curve, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So that certainly sticks out in my mind. And then some of the events that followed that, we lost quite a few people as a result of that, but that's a whole different story.
How do you feel about the event that the state's put on today, sir? In this event, how do you feel like, especially the veterans, how do you feel like they're going to react to that, or how do you personally feel about that?
I really very much appreciated it. I really don't understand how it was all funded, whether the state of Wyoming or whether it was all volunteer. I don't know, but I really appreciate it. And there's a lot of volunteers here that it's hard to thank everybody for what they've done and the meals and everything. It's very nice. I probably lucked out a little bit when I came home. Like say I got to Oakland and San Francisco on New Year's Eve, and there was nothing going on in an airport New Year's Eve, so I didn't have any protesters. It was just there, and so I didn't feel the sting, I guess, that maybe some did. So, and I personally don't spend a lot of time dealing with that. I mean, I move on and got back and went to college and kept going. I didn't let stuff like that bother me. And so, but there wasn't a lot of protest. When I got back to the community up there, everybody was happy to see me. So what I read in the paper and heard on TV and stuff is I didn't ever experience that about the getting spit on and all that stuff. So I missed that. That's good. I don't deal with that very well, so
Okay.
it's probably
It might
probably
be
best that I
interesting.
missed it.
Yeah. Is there something that you'd like to say? Anything else you'd like to say? This is all about you, really. So, I guess one of the things that we've had a lot of people talk about is opening up, and have you had any sort of trouble with that, or is that something that you practice or try doing to?
I have not had a problem with it. I don't believe. Early on, I maybe didn't talk about it a whole lot, but like when I was here in Casper, I used to show slides to the school kids and stuff like that. I mean, I didn't mind discussing it. So I don't know. I guess I really didn't have any problem. It was a little tough, frankly, early on. I was out about 2 or 3 months, and then I started college in Laramie. And there was some stuff going on campus and sometimes in the classrooms, and I was probably a little more belligerent than I should have been, but it kind of worked, quieted down, and so. But I didn't get in any conflicts with people. I don't think too bad. So, and I know that's not the question you asked, but yeah, I don't mind telling stories. People want to know what happened to me, and it's such a tiny piece of what really went on in Vietnam. There's, all the different branches, but the things everybody did, and what one person did is such a small little microcosm that people have to keep that in mind when you're talking about it, because there's a big war going on over there, and I was a little bitty piece of it. So,
Adrian, I have one question.
yes,
Arnold, you'd said that that you were a quick learner, but that it was one of the better or best things that ever happened to you. What did you mean by that?
that I never lost my vigilance. I learned real quick that this is a real war, and I walked, actually, as a squad leader, etc. I walked point for like 9 months because I thought that I was more vigilant and more aware than anybody else, and I kind of took it upon myself to do that. And it kind of boils back to that. I mean, you do learn pretty quick. It's like a few minutes, and you realize that it's a real deal. When you start seeing bodies come out, you realize real quick that it's a real deal, and I never lost that.
When you're on point, how do you ever rest?
That's it right there.
That's a tough question because that's one thing. Somebody asked me what we did. We did a lot of ambushes at night. The unit I was with, we did a lot of ambushes, and they said, "What do you do during the daytime?" I said, "We slept. We could. We were tired." And on point, you pay attention to what's going on. I mean, watching for booby traps and hacking your way through brush and stuff. Not always the brush, but a lot of times a machete. And
Did you come across some booby traps?
I had some people set booby traps off behind me, and the ones that followed where I went were okay. And I did see some booby traps, some butterfly bombs that they put under, rubber tree. In the rubber tree plantations, they make little bowls that they drip that out in. They cut the rubber trees and they drip that raw rubber out in there, or raw rubber. And you don't go step on them. And I seen a couple of them that were actually cracked, and you walk over and look down there, and there's a butterfly bomb that they've turned upside down. So a few.
And were there other types of booby traps as well?
There were lots of them, but what I seen was claymores that they made, and somebody set those off. I mean, they weren't necessarily booby traps, the ones that I seen, and they made me a demo man for the company when I first got there, so I was the guy that got to blow all that stuff up.
I mean, I guess coming from experience, mail from home, it's a real big, it lifts your spirits. Can you tell us maybe something that you remember, like a package or something that might have just helped you a little bit or lift your spirits or something like that?
Oh, they all of them help. I don't remember anything specific. And, as far as letters, I wrote to quite a few people, and it sometimes became almost burdensome. I hate to say that, but writing back, trying to write, because you didn't have time. And, sometimes wrote them at night and sometimes in the rain and everything, trying to answer everybody back because their heart was in the right place. But I don't think people really realized how difficult sometimes it was to actually get them answered and get them in. And then the other thing is you kind of write a little differently for everybody. Like when you write your mom, it's really don't tell her what's going on. And when you write this girl, you tell her this, and this one you don't tell it. It's kind of different that way. You have to think about who your audience is a little bit. Some of them you don't care. It's kind of freelancing, don't care. But the packages were great. I mean, I don't want to downplay that. As far as anything specific, I don't remember. Getting film, I took a lot of slides. And getting film was really nice, to have somebody send the film to you and the mailers, what they called mailers back in those days, and you filled them out. Postage was free, stuck them in, somebody carried them to the choppers. I don't know how that worked. And then they went back to Palo Alto, California for development, and then they went home. I never ever seen a slide till I got home, because we lived in the jungle. We had no place to put them, and so you try to get a few rolls of slides ahead so you can stuff them in your rucksack. But you had to be able to move with what you owned.
I guess coming back to that, and I know you're in the infantry. So what was your gear layout? Were you super heavy, or did you have just bare minimum equipment?
It was pretty heavy. Yeah, I don't know what they weighed because I didn't have a scale, but it was pretty doggone heavy. We all of us carried fairly significantly more than our basic ammo load. Carried more grenades than what our basic load was. And then, at night, when you went out, you had claymore mines and fun stuff like that. And then later on, we actually got some starlight scopes, and the early starlight scopes were very heavy. And so you strap on a couple claymores and the starlight scope plus your basic. It was pretty heavy.
Light infantry, huh?
Heavy infantry. It probably sometime approached 45 pounds would be my guess. I don't know, believe it or not. I mean, we always carried a major load of ammunition, and with extra magazines, not just ammo, so that was all ready to go. And we had no restrictions on that. If you could pack it, take it, And then, depending on where we went, we a lot of times had people carry extra ammo for the M60 machine gun, because those poor guys were all humped over, carrying stuff, and you'd run a spool around your neck. And then, as I said, I was the combat or the explosives guy for the company, so you always had C4 and det cord and primers and all that stuff. So didn't do that at night, didn't carry that at night, but during the day carried it. And so it was pretty heavy. I was in pretty good shape when I got back.
I bet. I bet.